Back on Get Up with a game we like to call Is That Ridiculous? Starring Louis Riddick. Louis, I said Travis Hunter is the best player in this year's NFL draft.
Yeah.
Am I being ridiculous?
No, that's not ridiculous. Look, I think when you're talking about return on investment, nobody has more upside than Travis Hunter. Simply, well, number one, first and foremost, because he plays two positions, and he plays two positions at a level that really translates to the NFL in the form of him probably being able to be a Pro Bowler at both of those positions. If you saw this young man in person and you watched his movement patterns and his hand-eye coordination, his overall raw speed and just gracefulness, you would say that this is a guy who right now is going to come into the league and take it by storm regardless of what position that he plays. He's instantly going to be a game changer.
Swagu, what do you think of Travis Hunter?
I agree with Louis, and I'm going to do it from the perspective of a guy that's not been as in-depth as Louis has been, putting his eyes on Travis in person multiple times. When you look at him play football, you just say immediate impact, potential rookie of the year, potential organization changer, somebody you can build around. So yes, I agree with Louis that is not ridiculous, and I think he is the best player as opposed to maybe.
Yeah, I think he's going to go real high and make somebody really, really happy.
You think?
Some interesting news earlier this week. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe invited to the draft. Has people wondering, could he actually be a first-round pick? If I said Jalen Milroe is going to be a first-round pick, is that ridiculous?
You know, I'm going to say it's ridiculous only because I feel as though Jalen needs a little bit of time. Look, his very best, when you're talking about throwing the football, if you throw on the tape of his game against Georgia in Tuscaloosa, notwithstanding some of the turnovers he had against Oklahoma, some of the throws he made on the road against Oklahoma, you can stack him up with the best quarterbacks in this draft. And his running ability, without a doubt, is far and away the best in this draft. Some of the best that you've probably seen in the past 20 years. But he needs time. Will he get drafted in the first round? I would say it's ridiculous. Is it out of the question? No, because people always push up quarterbacks, and someone in the bottom part of the first round could wind up taking him. I would say, though, it'd be best for him, and I think fair value would be at the top of the second round.
What do you think?
So that's why I'm saying it's ridiculous.
What do you think, Swag?
I think I understand Lou's sentiment, but my thing always now with quarterbacks, especially when you talk about potential late first round, you don't have to pay them a lot of money. And if a team thinks this guy can develop into a potential starter, or he can become something that we've seen maybe Josh Allen turn into or Lamar Jackson turn into, if you can cut down the turnovers and also improve his passing status. So I get it. I understand why Jalen Milroe is being mentioned in the first round. And it's because Lou knows this. You don't have to give these guys $60 million anymore before they take a snap.
Plus, you get that fifth-year option to take him in the first round. That's what Baltimore did with Lamar.
Right. That's why it wouldn't shock me. I'm just saying I think fair value is probably the top half of the second, kind of like Jalen Hurts. But look, Jalen Milroe is ridiculously talented.
All right, how about another quarterback, Shedeur Sanders? If I said he will fall out of the top 10 picks, is that ridiculous?
Yeah, I think that is ridiculous. Look, I think we are definitely overthinking this. We are picking this guy apart. We're combing through him with a fine-tooth comb in a way that really we haven't seen, another quarterback undergo in terms of scrutiny. And I really do believe that. Now, that's not hyperbole. I think we are really overthinking it with this young man. I think the floor for him is 9. I think it would very much so be a great marriage between he and the Saints at 9. I think his camp would be very, very happy if that happened. And when you're talking about a guy who had basically adjusted completion percentage about right at 80% this year, played behind no line, had no running game in 2 years at Colorado, I think you need to keep in context exactly what he overcame and still had some of the stats that he had.
It's funny you mentioned the Saints at 9 because that's exactly where Mel Kiper Jr. put him in his most recent mock draft, going the 9th pick overall to New Orleans. Swagu, would you like that fit? Shedeur Sanders with the Saints, Derek Carr's there one more year?
I would love that fit. And when you start thinking about the situation in New Orleans, Kellen Moore had a quarterback by the name of Dak Prescott who was taken in the 4th round from Mississippi State, albeit more athletic than Shedeur. But as far as getting rid of the ball, the time and the accuracy, being able to be a clutch player, Shedeur has shown all of that. This is 2 programs that this young man has went to and elevated both of those programs and put him in a situation when no one was talking about him to everyone talking about him. And I get that Prime was the coach, and I understand all of that. But Louis was at games, called games at Colorado. At some point, there has to be some substance to what was going on in Jackson State and Colorado. And you know who was in the center of that substance? Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. It would be crazy if this dude does not get drafted in the top 10. One, because he plays the position at a high level, and two, because a lot of organizations need a damn quarterback. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think it would be ridiculous if he didn't go in the top 10.
I think one point that I want to make about him is this. Fit is absolutely critical for him as far as the makeup of the coaching staff and the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach in particular in this manner. He needs to go somewhere where it's really a collaborative type of relationship between he and the coach. He's someone who likes to give input. He's someone who likes to ask why. He's someone that likes to be involved. I don't think it'd be very good for you to draft this young man if you just want to pound into him. This is how we do it. I don't really need to have your input. I don't really care about what you think. I talk to their coaches out there. I talk to Pat Shurmur. This young man really is invested and pours into the game, and he wants to have that kind of relationship with the coaches who coach him. And I think Kellen Moore, considering the fact that, look, Swagu already mentioned, he coached Dak Prescott. He also coached Jalen Hurts. He has been a guy who's coached a lot of different types of quarterbacks, a lot of different types of offenses. Yep. I could definitely see Shedeur matching up very well with him in New Orleans. And on top of the fact that I think he would just like living in that part of the country and playing in front of that fan base.
Do I have time to ask Lou a question?
Sure. Absolutely.
Lou, you think what is being said about Shedeur playing for NFL coaches while in college? Is that something that is discussed while this process is going on, that he's had guys on that staff in Colorado who coached in the pros and maybe a little bit more validity to the information they giving these GMs and people that's asking about Shedeur?
Back on Get Up, time for a segment we like to call What Up, Swagu? Because Marcus Spears, you've been gone a while. We wanted to get your thoughts on some of the bigger stuff that's happened here over the past month, starting with the Dallas Cowboys. What up with Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones right now?
Nothing at all, guys. The contract will be worth $1 gazillion. He'll keep us on edge until the day before the season, or he might do it a couple hours before the first game. And Micah Parsons will be in on it as well. The more and more I look back at the Dak Prescott situation leading into this season, they both were colluding to keep us talking about it on Get Up and First Take and NFL Live until the first day of the season.
Well, we love him for that, and we hope that continues for our own sake. Yep. Let's talk about another edge rusher, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. What's going on with what up? With Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals? I almost said what's going on.
It's weird, man. This is a weird situation. And obviously, sometimes you just run out of money, Graz. I mean, when I was young, growing up, sometimes we just ran out of money. And we had to eat what we didn't want to eat or do what we didn't want to do. So when you look at Trey Hendrickson and what they did with T. Higgins and obviously Jamar, he might be the odd man out at getting some big money. Cincinnati may figure it out. But the problem is you might be running low on funds. And when funds run low, some people are disgruntled and some people are happy. I'm disgruntled right now because my funds are running low because of the stock market. Trey is disgruntled because Cincinnati is being affected by the stock market.
We're going to keep it on NFL if we can. What up with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers?
I don't know, man. It's like a game of do you like me? Yes, no, or maybe. And nobody wants to answer the question. And when you look at Aaron Rodgers and you think about how he ended last season with the New York Jets, you got to figure out if it's valuable enough for you to try to wait or you to try to figure it out. But it's a Band-Aid with the Steelers. And they may need to just leave the wound open, stitch it up, and patch it up for good by waiting, by trying to position themselves to get a quarterback of the future. I know it's slim pickings, and I know nothing is guaranteed, and I know you got a one-year vision when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. But that one-year vision is the reason why we are still here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously with Kenny Pickett not working out.
Even if it's just a one-year vision, though, Swagu, like, is Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career worth dragging this out like they are?
No, I don't think so. Look, we all know it's a lot that comes with Aaron Rodgers beyond the football field. And if anybody wants to just focus on how good he is as a quarterback, you out your damn mind. We've seen the effects that Aaron Rodgers has on franchises. The ending of Green Bay in New York this year, and obviously going to Pittsburgh. The one caveat is Mike Tomlin is the head of the household, and there is no question about that. the relationship between him and Aaron Rodgers would be fine until Aaron feels like he is the head of the household. Mike Tomlin won't mince words. He's long in that organization, so he understands where he stands with that family and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this might be the one situation, which is why I recommended 5 months ago that this may be a place Aaron Rodgers should explore, because I don't think there's a question about who's going to be the head coach and making the decisions. This is one of those organizations. But again, him dragging it out, waiting a long time, it being worth it, I absolutely do not believe it's worth it.
You think it's worth them waiting for him at this point in his career?
Well, I'm one of them people who kind of says, look, what's your next best alternative right now? So they don't really have one. So they're kind of forced to wait, because honestly, look, Mike can say whatever he wants about the fact that he's comfortable and that he knows Mason Rudolph. Yeah, I know that you know Mason Rudolph. And I know Mason Rudolph, and so do the opponents. And look, and that doesn't mean that he's not a good backup, but you're not getting to where you want to get to and where this fan base has been on your rear end over the past 4 or 5 years about getting to with Mason Rudolph. You're not going to get there. So I think with Aaron, they're forced to right now. And that's the unfortunate part, because you can hear the discomfort in Mr. Rooney's voice when he talks about this. This is not how he's used to being treated. This is not how this organization is used to players kind of stringing them along. I mean, they're sitting there going, we're the Pittsburgh Steelers, damn it. I mean, you don't sit here and just kind of hold us hostage and have us strung along here. And at some point, look, I think regardless, they have to look to the draft.
Right.
They have to still be looking regardless of whatever he does. But now, that's where if I'm Omar Khan, the GM, I'm focusing all of my attention on making sure I have those quarterbacks stacked the right way.
But they're picking 21st.
Right.
And they already traded away their second-round pick for DK
Therein lies the rub, right.
So it's hard to maneuver a little bit. Do they have to force something in the first round?
Well, you know what? I mean, force is all relative, right? It's all subjective. Now, most people, consensus would say, who's going to potentially be available at 21 at quarterback, you're forcing the pick. Some people may not feel that way, like myself. Some people may feel as though a guy like Tyler Shuck is worthy of a 21st overall pick. But you know what? In all seriousness, this is why they're in a tough spot. What Aaron's doing is putting them in a tough spot. And I'll tell you what, regardless of what he does, though, I'm looking at my board and I'm thinking, what is best for my football team, not just now, but in the future? Quarterback has to be figured out for them.
Swagu?
Yeah. I mean, look, the points that you guys are making are absolutely right. I'd rather take a flyer on a first-round pick that may not turn out to be good than take a flyer on Aaron Rodgers at this point. Because what if he does play well enough or bad enough for you to be positioned to draft a quarterback high in the coming years? That's been the question with Pittsburgh, right? We can't get anybody out of free agency. We've been in this up and down battle of trying to figure out the quarterback. So either you get a young quarterback and he plays bad and you position the draft high, or you get Aaron Rodgers and you float again, and we have this same conversation next year around the draft.
Yeah, well, again, as you mentioned earlier, Kenny Pickett, first-round pick that didn't work out. One of the reasons they're in this situation, and they keep winning 9-10 games every year, so they're in the middle of the draft.
Exactly.